Hello. We are coming to the end of our symposium, the special tribute to Professor Sérgio Mascarenhas. And so far, and I'm sure we're going to get to this conclusion, is that we would need days to talk about that because there are just so many topics, so different perspectives and potential studies for one single reason, because that has taken us to accessible applications to the society. We are now wrapping up. And we are going to discuss the impact on 1 billion people. Is it a vision or a possibility? It is a question that Gustavo Frigieri, Plínio Targa, Marco Lange, and Reynaldo Gama will try to answer to wrap up our symposium. Good evening, all of you. Let me hand it over to Marcus Lange, who is going to start. Marcus, if I may jump in, Colombari. Good evening, everyone. I would like to share with you something before we start. This is a day that I'm feeling just so satisfied, so happy. Not all my expectations have been met yet, but spending a day and listening from the main research centers in the world, from the main researchers about that. We are talking about centers here in US, in Europe. So it's a great accomplishment, Philly. It's been a wonderful day, and we have been wonderful. Carlos Bremer, who organized that, Professor Colombari. It's so great to be on track. Why this panel is discussing from basic science to the impact on the 1 billion people. This is something that started because in 2017, we were selected to have to be part of acceleration in Singularity University. When we got there, Reynaldo and I, we said, why? What's been us? And the answer was the first name shake to us. They said, the neuroscience group in here in the Silicon Valley thinks that your technology can positively impact the life of 1 billion people. And I said, wow, really? This is wonderful. So we know what we do want. We want to get to know the community of innovation in healthcare that operates here at the Silicon Valley. So we spent there 2 months talking, interviewing, exchanging, and then talking to a neurosurgeon from Stanford. After testing the product, he looked to us and said, are you aware of the fact that you have set free a vital sign? And that's when the main challenge was posed to us, impacting 1 billion people. And the definition that our goal, our legacy is to be able to monitor new vital sign. And this is why you have Marcus Lange here with us. He is a physician that uses a lot our technology and constantly challenges us by making suggestions. Thank you very much for being here with you. And I'm going to start by asking him from a clinical perspective, are we on the track to impact 1 billion people? And then I'm going to ask Gustavo Frigieri. He was here with us today, who is the right hand of Professor Sérgio Mascarenhas, our scientific director. I'm going to ask him the same thing. From a scientific perspective, Gustavo, how are we doing in this challenge of impacting 1 billion people? And finally, Reynaldo Gama. He's the CEO of HSM and the co-CEO of Singularity University in Brazil, where it all started. And after that, I'm just going to let you know where we are and where we are heading to. If we can stick to 5 minutes each, because we are running somewhat late. Thank you, Plínio. Can you all hear me all right? Yes. So let me start by thanking the opportunity to be here. I have attended all talks. I always want to learn, and today it's been wonderful. We've heard specialists who have shared information confirming that the device works and works beautifully. I would like to thank on behalf of the Brazilian Society of Neurovascular Disease. I think this event is really important. I haven't met Professor Sérgio in person, but today I got to know a little bit about him. I've already talked to Gustavo, and I've had a great opportunity today, really. If we were to make some simple calculation, I think it has already impacted the 1 billion people. I would like to know about your database, how many thousand patients you have there, but I'm almost sure that it has impacted already that many people. There are a number of studies focused on intracranial pressure. We are just seeing the tip of the iceberg. This is just the beginning of something. It's a new vital sign, and it's bringing additional information, data that we haven't been aware of in terms of level of importance. I always send data to Gustavo. Today, I sent him a case, very nice case, and we can see the results and how satisfied patients are when we can provide something. If it hadn't been for brain, for care, we wouldn't have closed the diagnosis. So I think that assessing encephalic or brain compliance brought from brain for care is something that, if it hasn't impacted yet 1 billion people, I'm sure it will soon do. There are physicians who have had their practice changes, clinical research have produced many results to confirm really the method. And we know that in our world, in which there is a myriad of data, Brain for Care has confirmed that it works, and it works well for a number of things. Unfortunately, however, we are at a point, being a startup, there are still some people who are enthusiastic about the idea, but it hasn't reached the major mass of medical professionals that can start using this procedure, this device. It is something that involves the physiological mechanism. It's not imaging per se. It brings some data to be interpreted. And we've heard that from previous speakers. They have their experience with transcranial Doppler, CT scan. They are tools, and we rely on interpretation, knowledge, theoretical information to be able to interpret results. And a waveform also has that. So it takes time until people can have a better understanding and can bring more data into clinical practice. There's still room for it outside ICU. Many of the presentations were in neurocritical care. That's how it always started, right? I think today someone talked about cryptococcosis in a paper published some time ago. And that's when I just heard about the device. And then 2 years ago, Gustavo was invited to make a lecture here in my center. And once the presentation finished, I said, well, I wish we had the device. I've been monitoring you closely, but I have no monitor. And he said, we no longer use the monitor. I think the next day or 2 days later, I closed the deal and we started using the device. It's easy to use, it's easy to analyze, and Brain for Care is trying to provide an easy access to physicians who are in their offices. So I'd like to close by thanking for the opportunity to be here, for having spent the day with you. It's been wonderful and I've learned so much. I hope it can be provided to other people so that they can learn about that. And I would like to thank a major researcher who has done a lot and will be reminded by us, such as Aristides Leon, who described something which is studied all over, not only for headache, but all other mechanisms such as vasospasm and others. I think Professor Sérgio Mascarenhas will also be recalled as someone who will be always a role model to all of us. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Dr. Marcos. So our focus is getting wider and wider in terms of the way we look at medical and scientific research. So how are we doing in terms of getting close to 1 million people? So good afternoon. I would like to thank. This has been a great day. You have no idea of how my mind is, because Google Photos is here. They reminded that the first picture I took was the picture of Professor Mascarenhas, was in 19, or rather 2007. So seeing everything that has changed from May 10, 2007 until today is really great. I'm very grateful. Uh, uh, As Dr. Marcos has said, I'm very happy for being able to learn from all of you. We were discussing a case just a minute ago. But as he said, I think that we have been able to do science with different focus, different purposes. And as we are in many different continents doing research, I think that we are having an impact on the lives of many people, researchers, the subjects that help science. And today we have the pleasure of having a panel such as the last one that causes a direct impact in the lives of people in a clinical way. It really makes me emotional to think of how the initial idea from 2007 today is part of the lives of so many people. I think that we have already traveled a very nice path. And in research, as many have said, and Dr. Marcos said, this is the tip of the iceberg. And I think that we are going to discover more and more things, more uses. So actually in research, this is an exponential curve. We're going to show what we can do more and more. As Dr. Nassif and Solomon said in the last panel, I think that brain hemodynamics is very important and a very important tool that we can deliver or provide to the day-to-day work in ICUs. And there's many things, and we are going to including more and more people. So I think that we are on the right track. I'm very happy with the journey and everything that I could find. I'm a very happy person. I'm very happy to be able to count on you. I'm very grateful. So great, Gustavo. And I was even remembering Marcos and Gustavo that it's not just that we are doing more research in the United States, because since last year, when we got the approval of the FDA to approve our full solution in US, even for clinical application, we had the pleasure just last week that for the first time in the United States to monitor for patients with hydrocephalus and to change the management. And the funniest thing is that the doctor in California, and then we had shown the system to him, he looked at it, monitored it. He was so excited Then he turned to the person together with him, training him. The sensor, it can no longer live here. I don't know what I need to do for you to tell me. Uh, so it's a very famous doctor in hydrocephalus. So it's research and now clinical area advancing. Just last year, if you don't know, we published 31 papers. It's a very significant numbers for a Brazilian startup. And they were papers. It's not little articles in little journals. It's very important. So the whole story of impacting 1 billion people and having impact in the lives of people, it started from a conversation in San Diego at an event where I and Bremer were, and I met someone working for Singularity. She really fell in love with us, and she said that we should take part in the acceleration process in Singularities at the Silicon Valley when we forgot. And one day before the deadline, she said, well, I saw that you're not in. So, well, if she says we should, we applied, and then we were in the 7 companies selected in the world. And once we got there, we asked them, what did we expect from Singularities? So before what we know what we expected, we're wondering why we are here. And then the answer is because you can impact 1 billion people. So I'm very grateful to you, to your presence here today. I know it was very difficult for you to be here, and I would like to hear you on this issue. How do you think we are doing in terms of this challenge of having an impact on 1 billion people? For yours. Well, Plínio, thank you very much for the invitation. I feel like a foreigner here among so many brilliant minds. This beautiful tribute to Professor Sérgio Mascarenhas, who received a tribute in Singularities in 2017 with a plaque and all the honors that he deserved. So I'm very happy to be able to participate in an event such as this. But I feel that I am an outsider here, and I'll try not to say anything too stupid in front of so many scholars. So Singularities was founded in 2008, and Peter Diamandis has a sentence which is very famous and we love to repeat. The best way to become a billionaire is to impact 1 billion people. And so I would say that you are on a track of becoming billionaires in terms of impact. And the concept of that Singularities has of transforming, going from linear to exponential thought that we had today, the thought of abundance, but we know that it took very long to decode the human genome, many years to break 1%, and then a very short time, the 99%, less time than it took us to do the 1%. This is exponential thought. So if we were to think linearly, it would take us 1,000 years to do that. So as Gustavo said very well, I think that we are on the right way. Of course, this is a difficult path to follow. It's not just overnight, and Singularities itself has the objective of impacting 1 billion people, and we are almost there, almost 1 billion impacted by our courses, training, lectures, events. But we need to think exponentially in chain, which is the work that you have been doing. This way of working as an ecosystem. This is the best way for you to effectively accelerate and impact, to leave this linear thought to exponential thought, to abundant thought. So we are very much on the right track. I, as a Brazilian, am very, very proud to have Professor Sérgio Mascarenhas as a representative and to have Brain for Care here doing the work in the United States, taking this, and I think that this is very important. We know, and we've been working with many startups in Brazil, and many of the startups, they're limited to the local market, because when we talk about Brazil, local Brazil is so big. We have a huge domestic market, one more than 210 million people. So catering to the domestic market is already great. And it's very nice to see people thinking outside the box. So let's look at the world. So we are on the right track. So I'd like to repeat the sentence of our founder, Peter Diamandis. So the best way to become a billionaire is to impact 1 billion people. And I think that we are on the right track of becoming billionaires. Congratulations, everyone. And thank you very much for the invitation. It's a great honor for me to represent the Singularities University in this beautiful tribute. Thank you very much, Reynaldo. You're a part of the story. Well, actually, Reynaldo, one thing that the professor taught us is that no one can do anything alone. This is the truth. And also, sharing the essence for us to be able to transcend the limits. I would like to take the opportunity, and before closing, I would like to share with you my challenge. Why do I think we are going to impact 1 billion people? Thinking more in business terms, and then I think that when we went back to California with the vision that we have of thinking of it as a vital sign, and then we had some discussions, we brought a group together, and we came to the conclusion that if it's a vital sign, this is directly associated to life and to saving lives and reducing the pain and suffering of people. And if this is the objective, to save lives and reduce the pain and suffering of people, there is only one business goal: to do that as fast as possible to as many people as possible. And this was the first consequence and the first thought when we designed our business model. So our only strategic objective is this: how can we impact as many people as possible in the shortest time possible? And in this manner, perpetuate a vital sign that will be eternal. It's Sérgio Mascarenhas' contribution. Some people do not change our lives, they change the lives of mankind. And Sérgio Mascarenhas is someone who did that, together with Gustavo, Marcos, Reynaldo, and everyone, and more than 50 speakers, and who are the main references in this area. So this movement, think which is the business model that may deliver this? It's a business model with a population-based focus. It needs to be a very simple solution, very cheap, and that will be very intelligent in terms of dealing with the natural barriers. If we take Brazil, for example, today in Brazil, we only have 15% of the cities in Brazil. Only 15% of the cities have all the resources. So we decided to think of telemedicine. And they don't have a neurosurgeon, not an intensivist. So the whole concept of our model is oriented towards a population-based approach. So the policy that we have created for research in terms of an open innovation platform that any serious scientist wanting to do research with Brain for Care have access to our technology, have the support of our scientists, and they have all the support if they want to do science. Because Brain for Care doesn't have anything magic, has world-class serious scientific research. And there is something else. What is the reality of healthcare systems? Today, the main challenges of healthcare systems are to improve access, to make more and more people have access to healthcare, reduce the cost of care, and predict. And this is everything that we are doing, that we took into consideration to build what we are building. So today, 53% of the country's health GDP is wasted. This means that we can double the quality of care with the resources that we have. So looking at efficiency, looking at cost, looking at the models and outcomes. So we designed a model that has in its essence the pursuit for appropriateness. And appropriateness in care creates value for everyone, for patients, for the families, for the payers, and for the providers too. For those who pay and those who provide the service, might be the clinic, the hospital, whichever. So my question now is when? And so how long is it going to take for us to impact 1 billion people? And it seems to be a way that there's only going forward, there's no going back. So we have many scientists, and every year we double the number of scientists doing research with us. Today, we already have almost 60 customers, including clinics, hospitals, the main ones. Knowledge is being disseminated, and you saw today the number of applications. So there is an equation which is non-linear, that is going to be exponential in terms of increasing all assets. I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to give it to Gustavo. If you want to make any comments, this is the time, because I'm going to end soon. So I didn't find the digital hand, I used my hand. And I would like to say that I agree with everything, and I would like to say something. We talked a lot about science, research, clinical, but I would like to remind you and to pay a tribute to our technical body, because a lot has been done for the design of the sensor, our cloud, our analytics. So Rodrigo here, that has been tireless to make the sensors smaller, to make monitoring possible, to monitor newborns, our entire engineering team, IT and analytics. So I would like to pay tribute, to remember them, that they are essential for us to build everything. Marcos, I'll just try to answer your question here, Plínio, which is how long is it going to take us? Well, if we take the logic of exponential thought, definitely, relatively, it will take shorter than what has brought us this far. So this is the logic. And I would like to thank you very much for being here for this beautiful tribute. Once again, thank you very much for the invitation. I would like to thank everyone. Thank you very much. Very briefly, I would like to thank you once again for the opportunity. And I hope that we have another one next year, with many more people participating, discussing, sharing many more news. It's been really sensational. This day was really worth every minute that I participated. Thank you all very much, Gustavo, Reynaldo, and Marcos. So Gustavo said what I'm going to say. When we created our vision in the reason of being of our company, we are small, but we think like we are going to be very big, and big for due to our relevance. And people say, when are you going to become a unicorn? When are you going to make 1 billion? Our indicator is when are we going to touch 1 billion people? And if we touch 1 billion people, and if we are not able to turn into this a business that is economic and financially sustainable, well, so this equation is kind of solved. At the top of our reason for being, there's a sentence that defines gathering talents to expand the territory of healthcare. This is what we are doing. So here I have a sample of some talents with me. We spent the whole day seeing talents. We have more than 50 talents building everything. And as Professor said, that the giants that make it possible for us to go up, to climb their backs, and to do everything that we are doing. So I am really, really happy, and I miss very, very badly his phone calls, the phone calls from Professor Sérgio Mascarenhas. He used to call me very often. I'm sure he knew that we were going to get where we did. So it would be very good. So I'd like to end with a message saying how much I miss him, the love and hope, and the legacy is being built on behalf of Professor Sérgio Mascarenhas. Thank you all very much. Have a good afternoon. It's been a pleasure to have this conversation with you.